And hands down, this is going to be an interesting conversation. Why do I say that? Because I have already had a chit-chat with our guest this morning who's going to be introducing himself in a short while. But before he does that, kindly head on to our social media platforms, engage with us, and we'll be glad to sample some of your feedback, your comments, and your questions. And every other Tuesday, we have conversations around young persons and leadership development and all of that. Now, we're going to be fighting in studio, literal fighting. We're not going to be up in arms because our guest this morning, his interest is around young persons, and young persons tend to not put their mouths where their money is because when we look at the demonstrations in 2024, the demonstrations in 2025, which were a good thing and an awakening to this country, and the easiest way, one of the most easiest way, and it is given to us by the Constitution, is to participate within elections. And to date, it's only 20,000 persons who have registered to vote out of a projected 6 million. That is just a small drop in the ocean. And you're going to be helping us to understand these young people. What are they really about, and what can we do to push for their participation in political processes? Because honestly, that is where the change is backed, and that is how we can confirm change. Without further ado, kindly introduce yourself and have you registered to vote?
Hello and good morning, viewers.
You can speak directly to this camera.
Oh,
yes.
Hello and good morning, viewers. This is Timothy Mabango, a young man aged 25, a registered voter, to actually start with the question. I handle partnerships and fundraising for Uamuzi Foundation. Uamuzi Foundation is a civic tech platform run by the youth. We have an application. It's actually on App Store. It's called Uamuzi. It's a platform where the youth can express themselves. We discover that the youth are people who really want the change, but in some cases they feel they don't have the voice, they don't have the means of expressing themselves. We talk about public participation in the conventional sense, and you find the youth are marginalized in that sense. Talk of the youth, the women, and the marginalized. Being an African country, of course, you find that the elders are given more voice, and the status quo remains. Therefore, it's a platform whereby we give the youth a voice and a chance to express themselves. That is an overview of who I am. Thank you, Ellen.
And thank you for confirming that you are a registered voter, because it's very important in the current dispensation that we are in. Our topic today is going to be centered around voter registration and digital advocacy. And digital advocacy, this is the usage of social media platforms, and from a Uamuzi perspective, a Uamuzi Foundation perspective, the use of applications and have sort of communication and advocacy guided around a particular platform. Before we do that, kindly take us through a little bit, an in-depth overview of what Uamuzi Foundation is all about.
Thank you. So when you talk about Uamuzi Foundation, just even starting from the etymology, Uamuzi is a Kiswahili word to mean decision.
Yeah.
Uamuzi.
Yeah.
So officially registered in 2022, though of course as would be with any organization or any startup, there is a long journey even behind or backwards.
Yeah.
Since 2017 we were there, but officially registered in 2022. We are a youth-led social enterprise seeking to confirm and to ensure that we have social justice. We also do civic engagement. Civic engagement, most of us have assumed it's about taking people through why they need to make change, why they need to vote and all that, but we go slightly past that. So we educate the young people as well as all citizens, though the focus is on youth, women and persons with disability, on their rights, their roles, as well as responsibilities as citizens of this wonderful country called Kenya. At the same time, we also have plans to scale to East Africa and eventually to Africa. That is actually our vision, so that we can give people a platform so that they can express themselves. You know, most of us talk about freedom of expression. Yes, we have it in the Constitution, but well, how often or how well do you have a platform to speak up yourself? So that is what we take care of. We give people a platform to express themselves freely and to keep their leaders accountable, because when we look at our Uamuzi app, which is actually the trademark of our organization, we have an app, it's called Uamuzi, it's in Play Store. When you look at the Uamuzi app, when you sign up at the various levels, ward level, constituency level, county level, and even at national level. And at all these levels, we have leaders who have also signed up. So if, for example, I come from whatever the ward in, for example, Mumia's constituency where I come from, you find that there is also that leader from there. So you can keep them accountable. You can also keep your ideas flowing to them and them as well to you. Another aspect of Uamuzi is that we ensure there is filtering of that information. When we look at social media in the conventional sense, talk of Meta, talk of Instagram, talk of whatever the social media, and as evident even in our June 2024 protests, you find there is a lot of misrepresentation of facts. Everyone wants to say something. At times you find their political interests. So with political instigation, of course, I say only that which favors me. As to whether it's true or not, there is no way of verification. But for us, we've integrated artificial intelligence to ensure that all information that passes through the Uamuzi channel is actually true, a fact, and verified. So basically, that's an overview of what Uamuzi does.
Yeah. Why do you believe, or why do you strongly think that your mission and vision as Uamuzi is important in this current dispensation that we live in?
I actually mentioned, or I could have forgotten, I have not mentioned to the viewers, it was a chit chat. So Uamuzi, primarily, our target groups are youth, women, and the PWDs. When we look at this dispensation, let's talk since, like, for example, the new constitution came.
Yeah, 2010.
2010, that is when it was promulgated. So you find that there is a high political apathy. By political apathy, for those who might not understand, it simply tells that people are not interested in politics. We could be interested in attending political rallies, we could be interested in talking about politics, but when it comes to making those decisions, especially things like voting or even vying as young people in politics, you find we are really underrepresented. Talking of statistics, since 2010, you find that coming to 2013, in the wake of the new constitution, people believed that these things can work, change is possible. So coming to 2013, there was an increase in voter registration. 2017, the same, but when we came to 2022, and IEBC statistics can confirm the same, even UNDP, I was looking at that research, you find there was a drop by about 5%. Yeah. There's a 5% drop in voter registration, which would simply tell you that the youth especially are not willing to participate. There are various reasons for the youth not being willing to participate, but in the context of Uamuzi and the question you asked, talk of things like people being disenfranchised, people feeling like, especially the youth, this change, we cannot be part of it. You know, when you look at the status quo, you find the elderly or other people who are not really youth are the ones who have taken charge of our bureaucracy that is in government and even in politics. We have policies like, for example, the Political Parties Amendment Act of 2022, passed in December 2021. It states that for any political party, 15% of the positions should be allocated proportionally to the youth. But you find it is mostly a policy in shelf, not in practice. You find many youth are disinterested in politics, again, because many of their own are not there. Yes, we might be interested, again, in vying, like, of course, everyone would know, but again, you find there are many barriers of entry. Let me use the term barriers of entry. And one of them, or rather the chiefest, being finances. So you find most of us, the youth, feel like we can't be part of this change, and therefore there is even no need to register as voters. There is no need to participate in politics because we don't even have our own. And therefore, Uamuzi gives us a chance as youth to express ourselves and to be part of this decision-making. Uamuzi is an online platform. And of course, even when you look at June 2024, or the current wave of things, you find most of us, you know, we are being called an iPhone generation. We love gadgets. You find a youth has an iPad, you have your laptop, you have your phone. Whether you're in a matatu, on the road, in class, even in church, we love our phones. So comparing to long ago when things had to be done face-to-face, you find right now, even meetings, we do them virtually. You know, since globalization came, of course, we can do things virtually. And in fact, for our generation, we don't even prefer going to the offices. It's a difficult generation. So looking at Uamuzi, we give people, especially the youth, a chance to speak, not even from the way things are done conventionally, but in a platform and in a way that we can relate with. You know, once you have your app, you can express yourself. You can talk to that leader, tell them, boss, we have this and these things that we want done, or maybe these are our ideas as youth. Another aspect of this is public participation. When we look at it in the traditional sense, you would go for baraza. Even forget about baraza. Public participation as enshrined in the constitution, you find that the youth don't have voice. Yes, you have voice, but you're not sure after that. You know, we are told there's freedom of expression, but you are not sure of freedom after expression. So you find most of us go for those public participations, you talk, but you might not be taken seriously. We've seen this in Bomas, we've seen this even in grassroots level. So if this way of public participation is not working, why should we continue with it? So that's how Uamuzi comes in. We're giving people a chance to talk, and even the youth has an equal voice. You know, you're not limited. Your voice online, whether you are 30 years or 100 years, provided you're making sense, you'll be listened to. So that's what we are looking at. Again, looking at internet penetration rates, you find at this current dispensation, of course, internet imeenda kila mahali. Hata nikiangalia kwa mfano kule kwetu mashinani, unapata hadi yule tuseme nyanya yangu ama babu yangu kabisa tayari ana internet. Kwa hivyo looking at that, yeah, we have internet, we have the gadgets, so this platform has been missing. Here we go, African made, African run, uamuzi ni wako.
Yeah. There's so many things that you've spoken about or that you've shared, and I would be able to pick your mind on them. Before we go for the break, there's something that you've said, and I really would like you to extrapolate it a little bit so that we pinpoint it out. You've said there is political apathy, that young people, however much they participate in political rallies, which is a fact, however much they participate in going to political leaders' activities and all of that, which is also a fact. But then when it gets to where they want to make, when it gets to the point that they really need to move the needle and make the decision, that is where they do not make that move. And from our Uamuzi, as how you have placed Uamuzi, then you might have a bit of information on why this is the case. All right?
True.
Why do you think this is the case? Because it wouldn't be profitable for me to go for a political rally and participate, go listen to a manifesto launch and participate. But now when it gets to the point of changing that person that I'm saying they are not doing or serving me the way I want, then I do not make that decision. It baffles me. I know, and I'm gonna hold you. You might say that I am going to the political rally because there is the 200 shillings or the 500 shillings that I am being given, and I'm not being given anything to do this. But let us go beyond that reason. What other intrinsic reason is hindering young persons to make that decision, even as we're seeing it right now in voter registration turnout?
Thank you for that question. It's a well-informed question because, of course, it goes beyond, what we discuss at surface level or from a political standpoint.
And every person you will ask, they will tell you they go because kuna ile thao. But now beyond their 1,000, because this is your country you're ceding to this person, and this is your money. I am really agitated, and as a journalist, I might not be allowed to say this, but from a young person's perspective, our taxes, you pay taxes because you're salaried, you pay all those taxes, I'm salaried, we pay all these taxes. In one way or the other, the money that we are taxed is going to facilitate the 56 billion budget that IEBC is using to prepare for the 2022 general election. And some of that money has been given to IEBC to go do the voter registration. But in turn, our taxes, we're not getting the value of our taxes. So why would we come on our Uamuzi app and agitate? And the simplest form of where we can start, we are not doing that. What is wrong with our young? What is wrong with us?
Interesting question, and I agree. When we look at it, I had mentioned one of the reasons before. You find, okay, let me give it a background. You know, in the good book, we are told, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So most of us as young people, I tend to believe, and especially when you go to the grassroots, because I've been to the grassroots, most of us tend to believe we don't have our own on the ballot, so why should I really waste time? Let me call it waste time, quotes and quotes.
Yeah.
Going to, elect people who I can't relate with. At the same time, you find most of us do not really know or believe in ourselves that yes, we can be part of the change, and in fact, we can even be at the table. We are told, if you're not on the table, you are the table. So yes, we can be at the table and even discuss these things. We can vie for these electoral seats. MCA, MP, president. I was actually looking at the requirements of being a president, and I discovered, or rather it's something I know even from my civics classes back then, anybody can be president. For example, like if you fulfilled all the requirements and you have a university degree, of which many youth do have, anybody can be president. Like we do not know we can be part of the change, and we have everything that is needed, and we can rally behind one of our own. Talking a little bit about statistics, you find the youth are actually the largest voting bloc, going by statistics. Because actually people under 35 years are about 70 to 75%, thereabout, of the population. Talking of, is it voter database, you find we are about 30% of that voter bloc. Yet, by being 30%, all the rest goes to all the other demographics. So by being 30% of the voter bloc, of course, we are the single most decisive. If we, the youth, decide that we can make this change, definitely it's possible. Another reason for political apathy, especially among the youth, there is no motivation for it. Looking at things, I was born in this millennium, but you find it's the same faces. Talk of MP, kule nyumbani, it's the same person. So why should I keep voting when there is no change of face? So there are reasons such as that. At the same time, I tend to believe not all of us are informed, and I started with that. That's why I started with saying my people perish for lack of knowledge. Most of us talk on Twitter, talk on Facebook, but looking at it, you find even our own mothers, whenever they're given whatever little incentive, they're willing to vote to the highest bidder. So I tend to believe if we had this information well disseminated, especially at grassroots, tuongelee youth wa urban pekee, you find most of us, hata ukiangalia maandamano, it's usually mostly centered around the metropolitan centers. But ukienda kule Tana River ndani ya Magarissa, ama tuseme Kakamega kule mashinani, most of us youth might not even be aware of what is happening in the country. So political apathy comes from most of these reasons, but I tend to believe most importantly or most notable of these reasons is that shortage. I wouldn't say lack of, but that inadequacy of information. Yes. Another thing, by the way, before I forget, you find for this generation, I'll also give it an economic outlook of it. You find, talk of Gen X, talk of baby boomers, millennials, because of what happened during the World War, you find most of that generation thought of, like rebuilding economies, look for money. So you find most of us are not parented. By not parented, I mean we've not grown with parents. So in the same way, you find there is no that intergenerational continuity. That's why when I was hearing about the intergenerational dialogue, I'm not sure of how intentioned it is, if it has good intentions or something, but it's something that needs to be done. So most of us are babied around. We tend to believe our parents should go out there, look for things for us. Most of us are even 30, we are still home. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but looking at it from the mindset, we are not grown. We tend to believe there are people who can make these decisions. If the elderly can go vote, kama mama yangu anaweza piga kura basi, change can still be achieved. We are forgetting that we are actually the future of today. Not even the future of tomorrow, not the leaders of tomorrow. We are the future of today. I know that doesn't make sense in terms of English, but yeah, this is our time as youth. So the moment we discover that, and we discover that our vote and our minds, as well as our voice, count, then political apathy shouldn't be something we are discussing. Because if, for example, I consider, it's there, like normally we believe our politicians ni wezi, there's nothing good that can come out of Nazareth. What if we decide and say, we know these people are bad. Even themselves, they know they're bad. They know their intention. But now, of course, it's a game of interest. I studied public policy and administration. Politics is something I've really schooled in. What we are told, politics is a game of interest. You have your interest, I have mine. Politicians know theirs, and they're willing to fund it. They're willing to go whatever way to fund their interests. what are our interests as youth? What exactly do we want? Are we willing to go the extra mile so that we can fulfill that which is our interest, that which is the noble vision for the country? So that would be how I'd answer your question. Yes.
All right. It's a mouthful. And because it's a mouthful, I want us to take a quick break. When we come back, what are the mechanisms from a Uamuzi perspective, but also from a young person's perspective? What are the solutions? And, you know, when you sit in a journalistic seat, you are sometimes boxed to asking kawaida questions. But I think also this is a challenge to all journalists out there. We could also stop asking the kawaida questions and we really start prompting. And those who have the opportunity to ask real serious questions to policymakers, leaders, can we start asking the questions? And if we do not start asking the questions, then we're really never going to spar our brains, because there is a brilliant answer and explanation you've given me there. And if I had not sparred the question, probably it would have not have come. And this is a challenge to even young persons who create either political content or civic education based content. All right? We're going to be back after the break.